Hello everyone, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Watch my video and subscribes my channel. Taylor catches Ridge cheating with Brooke? The bold and the beautiful spoilers claim that Taylor Hayes may witness Ridge Forrester cheating with Brooke Logan. Will these exes capitulate with painful results? B&B fans know things took a startling turn for Brooke and Ridge in Italy. Brooke's boating accident was a game changer, since it helped Ridge realize just how much he still loved and needed her. Ridge put life back into Brooke and ultimately kissed her before making some renewed commitments. Brooke was left with the assumption that they were going to get back together, but now Ridge is pumping the brakes on dumping Taylor. Ridge is once again feeling stuck because of the vows he previously made to Taylor regarding their engagement and future. Considering Taylor's broken heart syndrome and everything she went through to cope with losing Ridge before, it's easy to see why he's scared about creating additional grief. Unfortunately, Ridge isn't always excellent about resisting temptation when Brooke is involved. The longer Ridge waits to let Taylor down gently, the more likely it gets that she'll experience far worse heartache. Brooke will continue to put pressure on Ridge and leave him feeling awful about what he's putting her through too. This is basically a bad circumstance all around, so Ridge's shattered heart will remain a problem in the coming weeks. There's just no road forward that'll allow Ridge to avoid creating sorrow. At some point, the temptation may be too much for Ridge to stomach when it comes to Brooke and their lifelong bond. Ridge may surrender to what he's feeling and cheat with Brooke ahead of his wedding to Taylor. Whether that includes an office hookup or a frolic in an actual bed, there's the potential for Taylor to walk in on a scandalous moment. B&B is infamous for soapy revelations like that, so Taylor may find out about Ridge and Brooke's reunion in the worst conceivable way. Whatever the case, the bold and the beautiful spoilers indicate Taylor's due for an unpleasant awakening in the not-too-distant future. Ridge Forresters' love life questioned. Shocking speculation rocks LA. The bold and the beautiful spoilers state that when it comes to Ridge Forrester, there are a lot of fans out there who are throwing his sexuality into question. Keep reading below for everything you need to know. Ridge Forrester's sexuality is being put into question. As many B&B watchers are aware of, Ridge has been bouncing between Brooke Logan and Taylor Hayes for years. He keeps on shattering their hearts, merely to put them back together again and break it once again. It's like a never-ending cycle that even fans get tired of. But at the same time, a lot of folks can't help but worry what might truly be on Ridge's agenda. That, or if it's time for him to attempt and explore a different form of relationship. Because plainly, the ones he's had with Brooke and Taylor have not been working out at all. B&B fans on the internet surely did have a strong reaction to all of the rumors about Ridge's sexuality. Some even reacted with, he's a fashion designer living and working in LA. There's really no reason for him to hide his bisexuality. It's not like he's a judge, politician, or a high-profile individual from a strongly conservative community. What's next for Ridge Forrester? Another critic of the performance commented, "I want him to stare at his reflection in a lake and drown infatuated with the only person he has ever truly loved. They should bring back Ron Moss so he can fall in love with himself." And then there was this comment as well. "This man doesn't love anyone except for himself. He is the most selfish figure in the history of daytime television." Both Brooke and Taylor deserve so much better, but I feel like the writers just want to upset us on purpose. And yeah, it's working. Of course, B&B fans will certainly have to tune in each and every day to find out what will happen next. The Bold and the Beautiful airs weekdays on the CBS network. Check your local listings for times. Thomas Forrester wants revenge. The Bold and the Beautiful spoilers suggest a familiar face is returning to Los Angeles. Matthew Atkinson will be back on the serial as Thomas Forrester in a few short weeks. We know the former villain is returning in September 2025, but it's unknown what draws him back to town. Is it work-related or another desperate attempt to entice Hope Logan to marry him? Here's what's coming up next on Bold and Beautiful. Spoilers down below. A lot has changed since Thomas left. When news came that Thomas Forrester was headed back to Los Angeles, many speculated that Ridge Forrester's son was returning to try and halt Hope Logan's wedding, or to attend his parents' wedding. Bold and the beautiful spoilers imply Thomas could be returning to deal with business at Forrester Creations. When Thomas departed town, he also walked away from his job at Forrester Creations and creating for Hope for the future. Thomas hasn't been back to Los Angeles since Carter and Hope's major takeover and the change of regime at the family firm. He's in for a rude revelation when he drops by the boardroom. Not only did Hope decline to marry Thomas, she got engaged to someone else after he left that she had considerably less history with. If Thomas Forrester isn't insulted by her engagement to Carter Walton, then he should be. To add insult to injury, Carter not only stole the love of his life, but also his family's business and his birthright. When Thomas Forrester returns, Carter might want to sleep with one eye open. Thomas confronts Carter. So far, it's unclear why Thomas is coming home, but we can't wait to witness the fireworks. Do you believe Thomas will confront Carter Walton, or possibly try to exact revenge on the man who stole his family's company? Should Carter be worried? Bartender Luna gets well drunk, says it's his lucky night. The bold and the beautiful spoilers for Tuesday, August 19th, hint that Luna Nozawa will play bartender and get Will Spencer drunk. Luna will also mutter to herself about it being Will's fortunate night, so she'll put a shocking plan in motion. Since B&B was preempted for news coverage on Monday, August 18th, that means the program will be moved back. Now it's due to air on Tuesday, August 19th, but we've got all the newest details for you. At Lee Finnegan's apartment, she'll hope she can trust Luna to be left alone for the evening. Luna will act like she's just going to watch a movie, but she'll search around for a disguise and sneak out after Lee's gone. Soon after, Luna would pose as an I.L. Giardino employee while donning a uniform, spectacles, and a wig. It won't be long until Luna is playing bartender at Will's promotion party, which will include dancing and some masks that Zen Forrester Dominguez invites all the guests to put on. Another waiter will advise Luna to get rid of some 180 proof liquor that's odorless and tasteless. It should be forbidden according to this waiter, so he won't want anyone mistake it for vodka. Of course, that's exactly what Luna will use in Will's vodka sodas when he requests them. Luna will swiftly start getting Will intoxicated, so he'll loosen up and speak about how much he wants Electra Forrester. As for Luna, she'll smile nearby and remark to herself about it being Will's fortunate night. It's evident that Luna is laying the stage for another round of drama, so stay tuned for updates on her next move. In the meantime, Lee will return home to find that Luna is disappeared. That'll throw Lee into panic mode, so she'll make a frantic call to Sheila Sharp and claim that Luna's gone. The bold and the beautiful spoilers say Sheila and Lee will have quite a crisis on their hands thanks to Luna's decision to make more trouble. Taylor Hayes had spent weeks convincing herself that Ridge Forrester was finally hers again, that the years of back and forth with Brooke Logan were finally behind them, that his renewed promises and engagement vows meant she could breathe without fear of betrayal. But the truth was Ridge's heart was still caught in a storm that no amount of logic, loyalty, or good intentions could control, because the kiss he shared with Brooke in Italy after pulling her from the waters, after breathing life back into her when she nearly drowned, wasn't just a moment of desperation. It was a soul-deep reminder of a bond Ridge has never been able to sever, no matter how many rings he's given Taylor, no matter how many declarations of "you're my future" he's whispered into her ears. And as much as Ridge tried to slam the brakes and remind himself of Taylor's fragility, her history with broken heart syndrome, her struggles with abandonment, and the way her world shattered every time he walked away, the magnetic pull toward Brooke was only growing stronger. So when Brooke cornered Ridge in the Forrester Creations CO office after hours, reminding him that what happened in Italy wasn't an accident, but destiny, that the kiss wasn't just about gratitude, but about rediscovery, Ridge couldn't stop himself from kissing her again, a kiss that grew into tangled passion as Ridge whispered that he hated himself for betraying Taylor, yet couldn't deny what his heart was screaming. And that's exactly when Taylor following her instincts and armed with creeping suspicion that Brooke was still a threat, walked in and froze at the door, watching Ridge with his hands tangled in Brooke's hair. Their lips locked, their bodies pressed against the desk, and in that instant, Taylor's world cracked wide open as years of betrayal replayed in her head like cruel echoes, the flight to Italy she never should have let him take, the countless times she told herself this time would be different, the vows Ridge made that turned to ash, and her heart clenched so violently it felt like it might literally shatter again. And though Ridge pulled away in shock when he saw her, stammering excuses about weakness, temptation, about meaning to tell her everything, but not knowing how, Taylor's tears hardened into fury as she accused him of being incapable of true loyalty, of playing her like a fool, of using her stability as a safety net whenever Brooke disappointed him, only to run back to Brooke when the first spark reignited, and Brooke, trying to insert herself, begged Taylor to understand that Ridge couldn't fight destiny, that their connection wasn't about malice but fate. But Taylor cut her off with a scream that echoed down the Forrester halls, telling them both that she was done being second best, done being the consolation prize, and as she stormed out, Ridge collapsed against his desk, torn between chasing her and clinging to Brooke, the guilt heavy in his chest, the shame undeniable, but the pull to Brooke still unshaken, while elsewhere gossip blogs lit up with speculation about Ridge's endless back and forth and even whispers questioning his sexuality, with fans mocking that perhaps Ridge's true love was himself, not Brooke or Taylor, fueling ridicule that made Ridge feel even more suffocated as he scrolled the headlines. And, as if things couldn't get worse, Thomas Forrester returned to Los Angeles just in time to witness the fallout, his fury bubbling over at watching his mother humiliated again, his anger aimed squarely at Ridge for betraying her yet again, and at Brooke for never letting go. And though Taylor begged Thomas not to spiral, to let her handle her heartbreak in her own way, Thomas was already plotting revenge, not just on Ridge, but also on Carter Walton, whose engagement to Hope only deepened Thomas's sense of injustice, because in his eyes Carter had stolen both his place in the family business and the woman who should have been his, and now, with his mother betrayed and his father exposed, Thomas's return was a ticking time bomb threatening to destroy everything in its path, while Luna Nozawa's twisted schemes against will Spencer brewed in the background, pulling Sheila and Lee into another crisis, just as the Forrester-Spencer-Logan triangle reached its boiling point, and all of Los Angeles buzzed with the question, would Ridge finally make a definitive choice between Brooke and Taylor, or would his inability to commit send both women walking away for good, leaving him with nothing but the reflection in the mirror that so many critics joked was his only true love? Taylor didn't just storm out of the office that night. She drove blindly through Los Angeles, replaying the image of Ridge and Brooke tangled together in an embrace she'd seen 1,000 times before, an image that had haunted her for decades. And by the time she reached her home, she was trembling so badly she nearly collapsed, her chest tight, her mind spinning with memories of hospital rooms. Promises Ridge made after her heart literally gave out from betrayal, and in that moment she realized she was on the edge of another medical emergency, gripping her chest and gasping for breath, while miles away Ridge sat in the dark with Brooke, both of them silent and guilty, but unable to deny that the passion they shared had been real. And when Ridge finally spoke, confessing that he feared Taylor's health might collapse again, Brooke insisted that hiding the truth would only destroy Taylor further, arguing that if he wanted to choose her, he needed to be honest and decisive instead of stringing Taylor along like he always had. And yet Ridge hesitated, torn between his lifelong pattern and the ache in his soul, because every time he betrayed Taylor it was as though he was cutting away a piece of himself. But every time he kissed Brooke it was as though he was coming home. And meanwhile Thomas learned the truth when he walked into his mother's living room and found her crumpled on the couch in tears, clutching her chest as though it might split open, and Taylor, in her broken state, admitted she had walked in on Ridge and Brooke kissing, that it was happening again, that she had been a fool to trust, and Thomas's rage exploded, swearing that Ridge had proven himself incapable of loyalty, that Brooke had once again sunk her claws into him, And at this time Thomas wouldn't let it go, because his mother deserved better. And though Taylor begged him not to spiral, her pleas fell on deaf ears as Thomas vowed to expose Ridge publicly, to dismantle his father's standing at Forrester Creations, to make Carter pay for stealing his business role and Hope pay for rejecting him. And as the storm brewed, word of Ridge and Brooke's scandal began to ripple through the family. First through Steffi, who confronted her father with fury, reminding him that he had begged her to trust him, that he had sworn Brooke was the past, and now he had humiliated her mother yet again. And though Ridge pleaded that it wasn't simple, that he didn't mean to hurt Taylor, Steffi declared that she was done defending him, that if he couldn't honor his commitments, then he didn't deserve Taylor or Brooke, while Brooke herself faced backlash from Hope, who pointed out that her mother had once again inserted herself into Ridge's life despite knowing he was engaged, that she was setting herself up for another round of heartbreak, and Brooke, though defensive, admitted she couldn't deny what she felt because Ridge was her destiny. And as these confrontations raged across Los Angeles, gossip blogs ran wild with speculation, mocking Ridge's endless cycle and reigniting chatter about his sexuality, painting him as a man incapable of true intimacy, someone who loved himself more than either woman, fueling public ridicule that made Ridge feel cornered. And in a drunken moment of despair, he confessed to Eric that maybe he didn't deserve either woman. Maybe his critics were right. Maybe he had spent his whole life chasing validation and calling it love. But Eric, though disappointed, told his son to stop wallowing and start choosing, because indecision was cowardice and he had inflicted enough pain. And while Ridge battled his conscience, Taylor made a shocking decision of her own. Instead of collapsing into victimhood, she contacted Nick Marone, the man who once loved her when Ridge abandoned her before. And though years had passed, she knew that reigniting that bond could remind her that she wasn't dependent on Ridge for happiness, setting the stage for a triangle that Ridge never saw coming. Because for once Taylor wasn't going to sit back and beg. She was going to fight for her worth in her own way. And just as Ridge prepared to confess everything in a family meeting, Thomas burst in with evidence. Photos of Ridge and Brooke together in Italy and at the office, planning to expose them in front of Taylor, Steffi, Hope, Carter, and even Bill Spencer, who smelled blood in the water and couldn't resist needling Ridge about his weakness. And the fallout was catastrophic, leaving Ridge standing in the rubble of his own making. 2 women ready to walk away for good, his children losing faith, his reputation shredded. And yet Brooke still at his side, whispering that this was their destiny, while Taylor hardened into steel, declaring that for once she would choose herself, setting up the possibility of a new love, a new independence, and a new war, because in Los Angeles nothing stayed buried forever, and Ridge's scandal was just the beginning of a storm that would drag in Thomas's vengeance, Luna's dangerous schemes, and a family empire on the verge of imploding under the weight of betrayal. Taylor's night after catching Ridge and Brooke wasn't just one of tears and broken promises. It was a full spiral into reckoning, as she sat alone replaying her entire history with Ridge. The weddings, the breakups, the betrayals, the plane rides to Paris, the hospital vigils, the times he promised she was his future only for Brooke's shadow to always loom. And with every memory came a sharp sting in her chest until she clutched herself on the floor, praying she wouldn't collapse into another cardiac episode, whispering that she was stronger now, that she couldn't let Ridge destroy her again. But by morning her strength hardened into fury, and she vowed to reclaim her dignity, not by begging Ridge to choose, but by choosing herself. And in that defiance, she called Nick Marone, the man who once swept her away when Ridge failed her, and his voice on the other end brought her unexpected calm, stirring embers she thought had burned out, while Ridge spent the night in torment at Brooke's house, unable to sleep, pacing the floor as Brooke pleaded that they had to embrace what happened, insisting that denying destiny was more cruel than admitting it. But Ridge's conscience was devoured by the image of Taylor's broken face when she saw them. So when morning came and he tried to call Taylor, she ignored him, instead focusing on telling Steffi and Thomas that she wouldn't let Ridge dictate her happiness anymore, though Thomas took this as license to unleash his fury. storming to Forrester Creations and announcing in front of the entire design team that Ridge was a liar, that he betrayed their mother again, and worse, that Brooke was complicit in her endless cycle of destruction, forcing Hope and Carter to defend Brooke, while Eric hung his head in shame, and Zend whispered to Paris that the family was on the brink of collapse. And while that explosion unfolded, Bill Spencer read the headlines and laughed, telling Wyatt and Liam that Ridge was once again proving himself to be a weak man hiding behind destiny excuses. And privately, Bill wondered if this was his opening to get Brooke back once Ridge inevitably broke her heart again. But what no one expected was the ripple effect Thomas's rage would have, because Thomas secretly collected photos from Italy of Ridge holding Brooke after her rescue, of their kiss at the dock, of the passionate embrace at the office, and leaked them to the press, sparking a media firestorm that painted Ridge as a cheating fiancé and Brooke as a homewrecker yet again, forcing Taylor to face reporters at her clinic who wanted a statement. And though she tried to maintain her dignity, her heartbreak was now a public spectacle, leaving her more humiliated than ever, while Ridge grew desperate, trying to do damage control, calling a family meeting at the Forrester mansion where he confessed to kissing Brooke, but begged for understanding, saying it wasn't about betrayal but about destiny and love. But Steffi shouted that he was delusional. Thomas declared he was dead to him. And even Eric admitted he was tired of Ridge repeating the same mistakes. And Brooke, rather than apologize, doubled down, saying she wouldn't apologize for loving Ridge, that she was tired of being painted as the villain when all she did was follow her heart, enraging Taylor, who arrived mid-argument and delivered a blistering speech, saying she was finally done with both of them, that she wouldn't spend another day letting Ridge's indecision dictate her happiness. And in a stunning moment, Taylor removed her engagement ring.